different conservatives are going to figure out how to, profess their love for Ronald Reagan more than other conservatives, given that it's his 100th birthday over the weekend, if we were still around. So let's get started with clip number 5 on Fox News Channel. This is going to be Heather Childress and Christian Witten on how Reagan would have handled Egypt.
Well, the unrest in Egypt raising the question, how would Ronald Reagan handle the current situation there? So the question, how would the Reagan administration have handled the situation in Egypt any differently? Reagan, of course, familiar with Mubarak. He worked with him when he first took office after the assassination of Anwar Sadat.
Yeah, I think Ronald Reagan would have undoubtedly been on the side of the pro-democracy protesters we're seeing on the streets of Cairo and other Middle Eastern cities. He just believed in freedom that much, stood on the free side of the Berlin Wall and invited then Russian President Gorbachev to come to this wall and tear down this wall. He believed in the transformative effects, the positive effects of freedom.
These guys drive me crazy. Look, like I just said, it's very hard to divine what Reagan would have actually done in this specific fact scenario. But did Reagan always stand on the side of democracy? Oh, come on. How do you say it with a straight face? Do you have any idea the number of dictators that Ronald Reagan supported, and half of them very, very happily so? Reagan would have always come down on the side of democracy, except for all those dictators he propped up around the world. All right, but I got to keep it going. Clip number 6.
He just mentioned tear down this wall. 4 words changed the world, helping to end communism and, of course, the fall of the Berlin Wall. Those words pretty straightforward, unlike President Obama's initial words to Hosni Mubarak calling for an orderly transition. Did Obama do the right thing initially?
No, and Ronald Reagan also believed in being somewhat concise in foreign policy, especially the big goals. And he knew what was really behind the threats we faced. He had spent the better part of 3 decades before he took office in 1981 thinking about the threat from Russia, not just its more apparent manifestations like the Red Army in Eastern Europe, the Red Army in Afghanistan, ICBMs, but understood what drove it, the communist ideology, and he understood that ultimate victory meant undermining communism. But in the same way, not only President Obama, but his predecessor in the White House have not really made the same analogy of our current conflict. We haven't identified Islamism as the chief thing that unites groups from al-Qaeda to the Islamic Brotherhood to Hezbollah, nor have we figured out how to fight it. And President Obama, the Obama administration, saying that it would be fine for the Muslim Brotherhood to be part of a future Egyptian government shows that our Washington foreign policy establishment really doesn't understand today's threats the way Ronald Reagan used to.
Oh, God, who can bear these people? All right, first let me agree on a couple of things. First of all, I think Obama has not been clear on this. I was the original guy who made that point. Orderly transition is not, something that's overly inspiring, to say the least. Second of all, Omar Suleiman is the guy we seem to be backing. Biden, Obama, Hillary Clinton said, he's the guy should lead the transition. Suleiman is, we had a reporter from Al Arabiya on MSNBC today, basically saying the same exact thing as Mubarak. It's just a continuation of the Mubarak regime. He said it's Mubarak without Mubarak. So I agree on that point. So the underlying point, I also agree with them, and I like that Fox News has an analyst on here who's talking about supporting the democracy movement. Great, fantastic. The 2 parts that I have the issues with. When the goofy anchor says, the knock down this wall, those were the 4 words that changed history. Are they really that simplistic? Do they really think that? That Gorbachev is having lunch, he's sipping on tea, he's having, whatever they have, caviar, tea, what am I talking about? He's Russian, having vodka, and he hears, what? What did Reagan say? He said knock down this wall? Oh, damn it. Now I'm going to have to go over there and knock down that wall. Come on, you can't possibly believe. Not only you can't believe that, you can't be that simple, man. You can't be that much of a simpleton. That's not how it worked. They ran out of money. They couldn't get the toilets to flush. Their economic system didn't work. It's not like they got intimidated. Oh, what? Sick, there, Reagan's at the wall. Did you hear? He's at the wall. He wants us to knock it down. Oh, no. They were freaking KGB, man. That's not how it worked. And then, it's Islamists, and Reagan would have understood that that's what unites them. Again, totally counterfactual. He's trying to say that Iran, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Muslim Brotherhood, they're all connected. Are you kidding me? The Muslim Brotherhood's like, if we see any Iranians around here, they're going to be in a whole world of trouble. Okay, we don't want anybody outsiders like that agitating here. The Iranians are Shia. The Muslim Brotherhood are Sunni. And the Iranians hate Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda was fighting the Iranians. They're not united by Islamists. That's all these guys doing, and what they do on Fox News 24/7 is the Muslims, be scared of the Muslims, the Islamists. No, it's nonsense. It's a lie. It's what I would call counterfactual, or not backed up by facts. Here's another way to say it. It's a lie. All right. But they got more. What would Reagan do? Clip 7.
And while, of course, President Reagan had dramatic successes, there still remain some questions regarding his policies with South Africa and apartheid. He maintained a constructive engagement policy. Are there lessons to be learned from that in dealing with Egypt?
There are. President Reagan was a very principled person, but he was not a Boy Scout, nor should we want our presidents to be Boy Scouts. One analogy, the Philippines was run by an autocrat, and we partnered with that autocrat, Ferdinand Marcos, out of necessity, because the bigger objective we were working toward was the defeat of communism. But we still, always behind the scenes, and sometimes in front of the scenes, put pressure on Marcos to reform politically, to liberalize. And then when the Filipinos took to the streets to demand his ouster, we helped facilitate that ouster. So you can work with unsavory characters, and unfortunately often you have to do that in diplomacy, but keeping your eyes on the bigger picture, which at that point was the defeat of communism, and at this point ought to be the defeat of Islamism. And keep your eye on that ball and you'll do okay, and I think Ronald Reagan knew that.
He just said Reagan always chose freedom. Then he turns it around and he's like, well, on the other hand, some dictators just rocked, And did you see how they turned Reagan's support for the white, racist apartheid government of South Africa into some sort of positive? What would Reagan have done? He would have supported the racists and the dictators because he was brilliant that way. And he always chose democracy? Like, the fact that makes no logical sense, again, it's Fox News. It's a logic-free zone.